I get the privilege and honor of leading Table Talks this morning, which, to be honest with you, I have been a little all over the place lately. Been traveling around, taking my sister to and from work this morning. Well, I took her there, then drove back home, and then she texted me, and I had to go then pick her back up and take her back, and then come to service. But everything is good. So let me open my notes, and then I will pray to kick us off. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity that we have to be in your house this morning, God. We do not take this opportunity for granted because we know that everything is designed and planned by you, and it is for our good, Father. So we just ask that you take a hold of this time, for it is all about you, and it is your time, Father. So we just ask that your presence would continue to flow in this place, that it would lead and guide our conversations, that the words that your youth will speak will have an impact both on themselves and those around them, and that our leaders would be able to impart your words upon them. And we say this in Jesus' name, amen. So, who knows the theme for this month? Bella doesn't know it. Go ahead. The path, that was the theme for last month. So close. It's what? It's on the screen, and only Bella knows it. So no one can read. Okay, good to know. Okay, so we don't have readers in the room. So it is stay the course. Now, what does that mean? So I'm going to break it down real quick before I get into our first question of the morning. And when I was reading this verse, a few things came to mind. So when you're running a race, what it takes to stay the course is you have to stay in your lane, and you have to run it to the very end. So to run it to the very end takes perseverance. There's going to be things, your muscles are going to ache. You're going to have fatigue. You're going to start to lose track of the finish line. So it takes perseverance. That is the first part. It takes obedience. If you are running on a track and you start to run in the lane next to you on a 100-meter sprint, what does that mean? You are disqualified. You are now kicked out of your race. Luckily, God lets us back on the path. So it takes obedience. We have to stay within the guidelines that are placed around us. And third, we have to have a hope and faith that we will actually make it to the finish line. If you've ever run long-distance races before, there is a time when you hit a wall. Normally in marathons, it's about 16 miles in. I was running a half marathon the other month, and it was about 10 miles. At 10 miles, my legs started to lock up, and I was like, I don't know if I can take another step. But it takes I know I have made it 10 miles. I got 3 more miles to go. I can do it. And so it takes that hope that, I have faith, I have hope. I know that the finish line is coming up, and I know that I can make it there. So first off, perseverance. Second off, obedience. And then faith and hope that you can actually make it to the end of your course. So the first question that I have for you guys is, what in your life is keeping you from your course and God's presence? Now, that can mean a number of things. That could be distractions. So as you're going along, you have, for me, video games. That's a big distraction in my life. I try to limit that. But also I've noticed that I'm a doer. I like to do things. So they may be good things, like I'm building a custom loft bed for my bedroom. I'm helping build set designs for camp. I'm, involved in youth. I've got a job that I'm trying to grow and build, my skills and bring assets to the company. So I got all these things vying for my time. But sometimes I get so busy that when I wake up in the morning, I don't go to my Bible. I wake up in the morning and I don't pray. I go to sleep and, there's another day gone that I could have been pursuing the things that God had me and been on my path, but I was stagnant and wasn't moving forward. So with that, I've got a couple of verses as well. If you want to throw Hebrews 12:1 up. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." And then Galatians 5:7. You were running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? So there's going to be times when either what you are doing is distracting you from God, and once you're taken away from your presence, you are now being strayed off of your course. There's also going to be times when your friends are. I remember when I was in high school, I was going through a time. I had just transitioned to a new school. I was halfway through my freshman year. I didn't really fit in. It was a small town, and I just started going down the wrong path. I started hanging out with the stoners back in the day. I started hanging out with the kids that weren't going to lead me down where I wanted to go. And it actually led to a point where I was stripped of all my friends. I ended up having no one around me. And so God literally was like, okay, you can't handle what I've given you. You can't handle this, so we're just going to take a step back. I'm going to remove some things from you, and then recorrected my course. So what I want you to do, and with your leaders, is to start to take a look at yourself, take inventory of, okay, am I following the course that God has for me? And then what things are distracting you? What things are taking you away from God's presence and the course he has laid out in front of you? So we'll have 5 minutes on that first question, and then we will resume. Okay, like I said earlier, so kind of really the title of my message is Taking Inventory. So we're going to continue to dive in to the things happening in our lives. So my next question I'm going to throw up a little early, and I'm going to discuss it a little bit, is in what areas of your life do you lack obedience? And what areas of your life is God calling you to a greater level of obedience? So who in here is a perfect child? Absolutely perfect. We got a few of those. Okay, I'm going to go talk to your parents, and I'm sure they will. All of them will agree that you are angels sent to earth, and you are the blessing in their lives, which probably some of them would say you are a blessing. So with that, I know I was a good kid. I was the golden kid, but at the same point, I struggled with obedience. I had issues with my family, with my father. I remember when I was 18 and I was leaving the house, I had failed out of my English 102 class and then didn't graduate from high school. And my dad and I had a falling out where he had wanted me to stay behind and wanted me to do all this stuff. And I said, no, I'm going to leave. And so I left that day. And so there's things that caused some issues down the road, but luckily with God, all things worked out. But there's going to be times in your lives where you're not going to be the perfect kid. You're not going to do all the right things. And then there's going to be areas in your life where God's going to call you to do something. And I remember when I was in high school, there was a kid that was being picked on and bullied. He was kind of a little outcast, and I was new to the school, and God was kind of prompting me to, say something and do something about this situation, and I remember not doing it. I was literally about this size. I was, 180, 190 pounds going in as a freshman, sophomore in high school, but I was socially awkward. I did not, transition well into the new school. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was kind of shy, reserved, and so I didn't want to stir the pot. I didn't want to do this. So God had put an opportunity in front of me to show my obedience, to show his light and love into someone's life, and I passed that opportunity by. And so, it's something obviously I still remember to this day, and that was, 13 years ago. So it's been a quick minute. So there's going to be times when God's going to be like, go talk to this person. Or you're in school and he's going to be like, should you be hanging out with those friends? And then he's going to show you someone who's going to be like, that person needs my love today. That person needs to hear about me today. Or that person, just say hi to this person. And in those moments, are you showing obedience, or are you living in your comfort zone? And so in Matthew 8:23 through 27, it says, then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over on the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us. We're going to drown. And he replied, you of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this that even the winds and the waves obey him?" And so sometimes we forget that Jesus is with us. We are in the boat with Jesus, and he has the ability and the authority to calm the storms and everything going around us. And so therefore, we have the ability to cause our surroundings to come in obedience with what God is saying about the situation. So again, with that question, it says, what areas in your life do you lack obedience? What areas did God tell you to do something and you didn't do it? Or we're called to be submitted underneath our parents and those around us. And were we perfect children? No. But there are also areas where God's calling us to have greater obedience and to walk in what he has called us to do. So if you want to discuss that in the next 5 minutes, and then we will move on to the next point. So for this next one, it's probably going to get a little more, I'd say, deep and heavy. I'm going to throw the question up again. RJ's so happy over there. I'm going to throw the question up real quick. It is, what trials are you going through, and how are you handling it? And I kind of want to, actually, I'll read this verse real quick, and then I'll explain some things going on in my life. So in Romans 5:3-4, it says, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope." So who here loves pain and suffering? To be honest with you, I like to work out. I like to push my boundaries a little bit. You know, when you wake up in the morning and your calves are just locked up so much before you even get out of bed, like you haven't even put your feet on the ground. There's just to me, it shows growth and progress, but at times it's hard. And right now I'm going through a time where, to be honest with you, I don't even know how to handle it. My dad had went through a few surgeries over the last few years. Luckily, he is pulling through, but he had got to a point where he had a back surgery that tweaked his spine, and it literally did something in his stomach where he could not eat any food. He was nauseous 24/7, could not hold down any food. And this lasted for a year and a half, and he lived constantly at a pain level of 8 to 10. And so when you're in that condition, your body does not know how to handle it. Your spirit does not know how to handle that amount of pain. He dropped 60 pounds. He was just skin and bones. I mean, he did everything that he could, but when you literally don't have an appetite from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, it is really hard. And to watch my dad go through that, and then my mom recently, well, they're both divorced. They've been divorced since I was 5, but my mom recently is going through another divorce. And she has been with someone in a form of relationship or with family her entire life. She has not, right after high school, got married. Right after that, divorced, got married again. She has always been with someone. So at this moment in her life, she is questioning God and being like, God, why have you taken literally everything away from me? She questioned herself. She's like, what did I do wrong to deserve this? And it's a moment where she's dealing heavily with depression, heavily with suicidal thoughts, heavily in this realm of just oppression. So now I'm in this environment where luckily my dad has been pulling through. He recently had a surgery that he bounced back from, and it fixed his health a little bit. So now to see him gain some of his life back, but now have my mom where now I'm also the spiritual leader in my house. There's no one else that I can rely on. There's no one else that they can go to. And so they come to me, and I'm like, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to deal with all this is going on when then in my life I was on a course, I was going to join the military, had everything up and going, took a year off, was training, doing everything that I could, crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's, and got everything in, submitted my paperwork, and time after time after time it was kicked back to the point now where I'm like, okay, God, then what's the course for my life? So now I'm in this phase where I don't know what my next step is. I'm being faithful in what God has given me. I've got my mom who now I'm trying to keep her alive and where she's at. And then also I have an opportunity to speak hope truth and life into my family. I have this opportunity to show them who God is. But to be honest with you, it's hard. So there's times in your lives where you're going to go through some hard things, or the people around you that you love are going to go through some hard things. But how do we handle that? Do we give it to God? Do we just try to grip the reins a little harder and go through? Or do we truly submit to Him? So when I was in high school, to be honest with you, I was depressed. I missed 40 days of school my junior year between health issues and just not wanting to get out of bed. That's a real situation that some of you may face, that you're going to go through, where the thought of going to school is going to be, another day, do I want to do this? The thought of going to church is going to be like, but God, it's boring. Like, what is there? Or even, who are you, God? Like, why should I go to church when I don't even know you? But it's in those moments where we need to press in. We need to realize that through suffering, we can persevere, and through that we can gain hope. In in Isaiah 40:31, it says, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint. There is a hope for our future in suffering. Suffering will produce something in you that will change your life, your course, and the courses around you. So, again, what trials are you going through? And to be honest, just be honest. This is an opportunity where you can truly share, and this is an opportunity to gain some of friends and leaders around you who can help support you in tough times. And how are you handling those trials? So I hope those conversations were helpful to at least one of you in some way, shape, or form. I purposely did not take part in any of the groups. I have this odd black table up here all by itself. I'm all on my own. And there's going to be times when you'll be in the room, but you'll feel isolated. You'll feel all alone. You'll be surrounded by people, but feel like you have no one to rely on. And like I said, when I was in high school, there came a time when that's literally what I felt like. I felt like, I had no friends, at least not in school. I had some friends at church. But I had no friends at school. I'd go to school, or no one I wanted to be friends with too. Let me put it that way. And so I was isolated. I didn't know what to do. I fell into depression. But there's times when God's going to remove everything around you so that you have no one but Him. That He wants to be special. He wants to be everything for you. And sometimes, like with me, I'm stubborn. I don't know if any of you are stubborn, but it takes a lot to get me moving. It takes a lot to get me out of my thoughts and out of my own ways of thinking. So with that, I would encourage you to get connected with a leader, and I'm going to challenge you in this way. If you are going through something, get connected to a leader. If you are struggling with someone, if you have questions on anything, get connected to a leader. I would encourage our leaders to reach out to the youth, to not just wait for Wednesday and hoping the youth show up. Because, we love each and every one of you. We love seeing you here. We love seeing God work through you. And we want to be at your disposal. We want to be able to help you with what you're going through. We have went through life. I'm only 27, not a lot of life, but enough. I'm still young. May have lost all my hair, but that's fine. But we've went through some things, like I said, with some of my story. That's like I've been to some dark places, and I've made it through. A lot of your leaders have experienced things that they can help you with, and they literally chose to be here for you guys. So I would encourage you, if you don't have your leader's phone number, get it. If you have any questions, ask them. And for leaders, reach out. Don't just wait for the kids to be there, because we are placed here to walk together. We may have our own courses, but our courses intersect. And it's in those moments that you have someone to rely on. And so I'm going to just pray over a few things real quick that I feel God is putting on my heart. And so, God, I submit every word that was said to you. We come before you with our hearts open, Father, and I just pray that the spirit of depression would just be crushed. That has no place here, Father. I pray for the spirit of procrastination, the spirit that, we have another day. But God, I would just ask that we would not put off your presence another day. We would not put off the opportunity to dwell in your presence, to partake in your love another day, that we would be intentional with our time, that we would wake up in the morning and we would choose you, Father. And I just ask that we would not put off obedience any longer, that when you put a word in our hearts, that when you place someone in our lives that may be struggling, and that you say, reach out to them, that you say, this child needs someone in their life, that when someone just needs someone to say hello, that when they need someone just to reach out and be their friend, that we would not hesitate any longer, that we would walk in obedience, that we would have perseverance and determination and grit to do the hard things, to be uncomfortable, to walk in the path that you've called us for, God. And I would just ask that you would instill your love, your hope, and your joy in each and every one of us, that we would have a hope for the future, that we would see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you are there waiting and standing with us and before us, that without you, we would have nothing, but because we have you, we have everything, and we have the power and the authority to cause the winds and the waves to obey us. That there is no storm, no trial, no temptation, no suffering that you cannot overcome, Father. So we just ask that you show yourselves prevalent in our lives, that you continue to touch us, and that this would not be the end of our journey, but the start of something new in you, Father. And we just submit everything to you, for it was all yours to begin with. And we say these things in Jesus' name.